They say there are signs when your spouse is unfaithful. They are right. I just missed them till it was too late. My name is Robert. Everybody calls me Bob. I have a good job working for an engineering firm. I have just turned 31, married to Debbie. We have been married for 7 years, giving birth to the other love of my life, Isabel, or Izzy, as I call my 6-year-old daughter. I met Debbie technically on the rebound from her first and only boyfriend. They had dated for 2 years before the guy started cheating on her for not putting out. Debbie, like me, was very conservative when it came to dating. She wanted to wait till marriage. When she found out her boyfriend was cheating, she was devastated and dumped him. A friend brought her to one of our company picnics where we met just after she graduated from college. I later found out that it was a setup by one of her friends and one of my friends. We immediately hit it off. Knowing her history, I didn't make any advances on her right away. I wasn't a virgin, but I would never have been considered experienced in the intimacy department. 2 months into our dating, we were making out with a lot of rubbing over the clothes. Debbie surprised me by touching me intimately and asking me to take off my pants. She told me she wasn't ready for intimacy, but she wanted to try being more physical. Of course, I was thrilled. It took her a few more weeks before she would let me be more intimate with her. Debbie found she really enjoyed this kind of intimacy, both giving and receiving. It was just over 6 months from when we met that we agreed to marry. Debbie didn't make it to her wedding night as a virgin. 2 weeks after we were engaged, we were lying in bed after a night of drinking. Debbie's libido had always increased when she drank. Debbie had been intimate, but not fully. She moved up my body and told me she was ready. Lucky for me, I had purchased some protection to get ready for our wedding night, or that's what I told her. I was slow and gentle, but it was still uncomfortable for her. Our next intimacy session was so much better. We were close all night long, and that started us being very active. Debbie quickly went on birth control so we could be more spontaneous. After marriage, our intimate life was great but simple by most others' standards. It was confined to basic positions. I had no complaints, even if our variety had dropped off to little or nothing. We decided to have a child early on. After Izzy was born, I thought we had the perfect marriage. My career had taken off, and Debbie seemed to enjoy being a mom and a part-time teacher. Like all good things, it couldn't last. I never would have predicted that my perfect wife would cheat on me. Debbie had always been friendly with other men, but never the type to flirt or the like. I found out that her journey to cheating started at the neighborhood New Year's Eve party. The kids were all staying at one house with some teenagers babysitting, while the adult-only party was at another house. There were at least 20 couples with the drinks flowing. The hosts had mistletoe hung up around the house. There was a lot of good-natured kissing among friends. At midnight, everyone was kissing everyone, some more intense than others. Our good friends Tom and Jennifer were standing next to us at midnight. They have a daughter, Mary, the same age as Izzy. Jennifer is a doctor, while Tom does some contracting work part-time, which allows him to care for their daughter. Our daughters would often play together with Tom or my wife, taking them to activities. After Debbie and I had our midnight kiss, we kissed several other people near us. I kissed Jennifer in a polite, closed-mouth kiss on the lips. Tom and Debbie's embrace was more passionate. If I had been paying attention, I would have seen their tongues dancing in each other's mouths. The party continued for a few more hours. During that time, I lost track of Debbie for a period of time. When we got home, Debbie was very excited. Her enthusiasm, I thought, was the result of alcohol and some of the kissing. What I didn't know was that Tom had pulled into the kids' bedroom where they were close like teenagers. Debbie not only got her first touch of another man, but she gave her first intimate kiss that was not me. That was the start of their affair, the start of their secret getaways, the start of my perfect wife cheating on me. Debbie later said that didn't start being fully intimate till St. Patrick's Day. She had been intimate with Tom a few times, but it was after they were making decorations for a St. Patrick's Day party that they were intimate for the first time. I missed several signs that should have tipped me off. Debbie was secretive about her and Tom's time together. Izzy became tired of playing with Mary, but Debbie insisted that they continue to play together. Debbie's interest in intimacy with me had diminished. There were other signs, but I simply didn't want to see them. I thought her renewed interest in working out and dieting was to get in shape for me. I wasn't picking up on all the texting she was doing at strange times. If I asked about it, she just dismissed it that it was one of her girlfriends. They had been intimate for almost 3 months before I suspected. It was during close moments that my suspicions were finally aroused. We had been at a function at my firm, and Debbie had a lot to drink. One thing about Debbie: when she drinks, she becomes very passionate. She was incredibly passionate when we hit the bed. In our time together, we had never been intimate in certain ways. I had asked her several times when we were first married to try different positions, but she thought it was improper. Debbie got up on her hands and knees, telling me to join her. I joined her quickly, moving passionately when I could tell Debbie was getting ready to climax. To my shock, she called out, "Oh God, Tom, I'm going to climax. Keep moving passionately." I froze just at the moment she started her climax. I couldn't believe my ears. Debbie was too inebriated to realize that I had stopped being intimate. I withdrew, staring at her as she calmed down from her climax. Debbie curled up in a ball, falling asleep. There was no sleeping for me that night. I tried to rationalize her comment. I just didn't want to believe that my wife would cheat. There was no other explanation. I was thinking about all the time that she and Tom spent together. The next morning, I simply asked her about being intimate in different ways, and that we had never done that before. The look on her face confirmed something was up. Her face went pale before she blamed the alcohol, but the stammering and the look of panic on her face told me she was lying. "I did some research on how to tell if your spouse is cheating on you. One of the first suggestions was to check the spouse's phone and email. I shouldn't have been surprised that when I checked her phone when she was in the shower, it was password protected. We both had passwords on our phones, but we both knew each other's, or did. The password I put in that I thought was hers didn't work. I thought through the other signs that included diminished intimacy in bed. We certainly had that, but I blamed myself for the long hours I was putting in at work. The site I looked at said to watch the laundry. If your sheets were being changed more often and laundered more often, there might be a reason that more activity is happening on them than you know. It wasn't our sheets, but I had noticed that the guest room sheets were in the laundry quite often. We always did laundry on Sundays. In the hamper, I found sheets from the guest bed. The smell was faint, but unmistakable. I didn't want to believe it, but everything was pointing to my wife being unfaithful. I tried to convince myself that I misheard her, or it was just a drunken fantasy. My logical suspect, of course, was Tom. They spent a lot of time together, and it was his name she called out. The Memorial Day neighborhood party was 2 days away. Tom and his family would be there. I was going to watch for any signs, hoping that I was just overreacting. It was the annual party at the clubhouse to celebrate the opening of the pool. The kids were playing, and everyone was having a good time except me. I was watching Debbie and Tom's every move, trying not to be obvious. I thought it was just my imagination projecting what I wanted, or didn't want, to see between the two. There were constant looks between the two, each time checking to see if Jennifer or I were watching. Twice my wife scurried off, saying she had to go to the bathroom. Not surprisingly, Tom waited a minute and announced he had to go. The third time, I discreetly followed. I watched as Tom walked right past the bathrooms, going into the utility closet. I snuck up, standing next to the door where no one could see me. The door had vents in the bottom that allowed me to hear what was going on inside. At first, I just heard muffled sounds. It was Tom's voice I heard telling my wife how much he needed her and couldn't wait any longer. There was more rustling when I heard my wife's voice for the first time, confirming my fears that she was in there. "Tom, I want you too, but we can't be intimate here. Bob's been watching us like a hawk. I think he suspects." A sound from both told me Tom had moved closer to her. "Oh, this feels great. He has no idea we are being intimate. It's his and Jen's fault anyway. If they are going to be too busy with their work to satisfy us, they deserve for us to be intimate. Oh, this feels incredible." Debbie moaned as I heard the sound of slapping. Debbie's voice cut me deeply. "Oh yes, be intimate with me, Tom, and finish inside me." I walked away before I had to hear them climax. I was in shock, probably looking like a zombie. I made my way back to the party, finding Jennifer. She immediately asked me what was wrong. I told her I wasn't feeling well and was going to go home. I asked her to tell my wife. When I got home, I threw up. I lay on the couch for about an hour feeling sorry for myself. "Forget this," I said to myself. My fears had been realized. I was well past denial. Now I was upset but didn't know what to do. I wanted justice, and I wanted proof. I was going to find out where they were being intimate and when. Debbie came home several hours later with a concerned attitude. She asked how I was feeling. Being gone so long, I wondered how many times they snuck into the utility room to be intimate. I wanted to ask her how she was feeling, but I held my tongue. I wanted justice. The good thing about being an engineer is knowing smart technical people. I knew a nice thing about smartphones was that you can't hide their location unless you turn them off. One of my techs told me that it wasn't hard as the owner of the service to access the GPS data of the phone. With his help, we did just that. There was nothing out of the ordinary. There were plenty of trips to Tom and Jennifer's home, but not as many as I would have expected. I guessed that most of the intimacy was happening in our house. If that was true, it would give me an advantage. The imperative was to catch them in the act and record them. I need intelligence. One of my techs told me about an app that would hack her phone to mirror her texts to my phone. When I told him I doubted I could get access to her phone, he said I didn't have to. All I had to do was send her an email with the embedded program. The tech grabbed my phone and had it programmed in minutes. All you have to do is hit send, and when she opens the email, you will have everything she is texting. Without hesitation, I hit send. Next, I had to figure out a way to record them in the act. My tech laughed at me. "That's easy. You have a security system with cameras that you can access from your phone that record already, right?" "Yeah, but all the cameras are outside." "We can add wireless cameras that also record sound anywhere and everywhere we want. We can go to lunch and pick them up. I'll need an hour to install them." I had the perfect opportunity. Izzy was starting dance camp on Wednesday, and so was Mary. Debbie would be taking her that day. I was certain they were going to use the time the girls were at dance camp to be intimate, but the time to take and register Izzy would give my tech just enough time to install the cameras. My plan was coming together. On my way home, I stopped at the electronics store to buy the cameras I was told to get. When I was in the checkout lane, I received a ding on my phone. Debbie had opened my email and the app had been installed. I had to turn the sound off so she wouldn't know I was getting her texts at the same time she was. Izzy was prancing around excited about her dance camp. I tried to feign excitement, but it wasn't working. Once Izzy went to bed, I retreated to my office, giving Debbie time alone, thinking she would text Tom. I was right. They got into a big conversation. She was sending him pics while he sent her pics back. I was expecting to see something, but he looked just as average as me. Tom was excited about them dropping the girls at dance camp before coming to our house to be intimate. Tom was glad that the camp went all day. He was looking forward to spending the day being intimate with my wife. Debbie told him that she wanted to get there early so they wouldn't have to wait in a long line for registration. She was just as anxious to back home and be intimate with Tom. With the registration time, my tech and I should have just enough time to install the cameras. My tech met me at the McDonald's where I parked my car. We waited up the street till Debbie and Izzy rolled by. My job was to put up the 6 cameras while the tech did the programming. The programming was the hard part. They were motion-activated and could also be activated by remote. I put them in the kitchen, living room, the basement, our bedroom, and 2 in the guest bedroom. I figured the guest bedroom was where they would do it. We made it just in time. I watched on my phone as 2 cars pulled into the driveway. When I got back to the office, I tried to pull out my phone to see if they were being intimate. I couldn't do it. I would have to wait till I got home. The key to making the plan work was for me to keep my cool. I tried, but couldn't help but ask some sarcastic questions to Debbie about enjoying her day. The panicked look on her face was enjoyable, but I had to stop if I was going to get the justice I wanted. I retreated to my office again after Izzy went to bed. I watched as the outside cameras documented them pulling into the garage. Once inside the kitchen, they were in an immediate embrace, kissing and grabbing at each other. They didn't stay long in the kitchen, quickly moving upstairs to the guest bedroom. The sound was muffled, but the picture was very clear of them stripping their clothes off. I fast-forwarded through their kissing and Debbie being intimate with Tom. The nauseous feelings came streaming back when Debbie got on her back, letting Tom move closer to her. I should have known it was going to happen, but I got even more upset when she allowed him to finish inside her. The funny thing was, while I was watching them be intimate, they were blowing up the text messages on how great their intimacy was. Debbie did say something to Tom about me acting strange. Tom just dismissed it, was clueless, and knew nothing. I couldn't watch the rest, but I knew I had them. I wanted a better sound. Early the next morning before work, I adjusted the cameras in the guest room in a manner that would allow me to hear them better. At work the next day, I watched on my phone to see their cars pull up like the day before. Right on schedule, they went up to the bedroom. In the privacy of my office, I watched them get ready to be intimate, and the sound was good even over the phone. I knew I had gone a little too far with my sarcasm, and Debbie was on edge. "I tell you he knows something. I can tell," Debbie said. "Forget him. Even if he suspects something, he can't prove a thing. He's where he always is, at work like my wife. They are too clueless to know that while they work while we are intimate," Tom said, laughing. "Don't you love the fact that their hard work is paying for us to be able to be intimate like rabbits?" Tom moved closer to my wife, and she bent forward. I had seen enough for now. I had my proof, but now the question was what to do with it. Our marriage was over, and I wanted to make her realize the consequences. I decided to go to an attorney to figure out the best way to end it. As upset as I was at Debbie, I knew this was going to be hardest on Izzy. One of my techs suggested a good lawyer for just my kind of case. He wanted to see me right that same day I called. I showed the lawyer some of the video and text messages. He was confident, "We can make her realize the consequences." He told me that our state was a no-fault state, but to keep the videos private, he was sure she would agree to anything. I told him I wanted everything I could get. The lawyer suggested that I contact Jennifer and get her in on the plan. It would be more effective to hit them both at the same time. He gave me the number of one of his colleagues who would represent her. I called Jennifer's office and was directed to her receptionist. I left a message for Dr. Miller to call me as soon as possible. Not 10 minutes later, my phone rang with Jen on the line. "What's wrong? Is everyone okay?" "Jen, we need to talk." She immediately asked if everyone was okay. I told her that everyone was physically fine. Her tone sounded like she knew what was coming. She told me to be at her office at 5 to meet after her last patient. When I walked in an examining room, she shut the door and spoke first. "That guy is cheating again, right?" "How do you know?" I asked. "I know my work takes up a lot of my time, but I'm not clueless. I was getting suspicious about all the time he was spending with your wife. He thinks he is so slick. Tell me you have proof." I pulled out my phone and showed her a couple of short clips of our spouses being intimate. "He's finished. That guy is finished." "The way you said that, I take it this is not his first time." Jen took a deep breath. "First, second, or third? After the last time, I told him no more, or it was the end. My lawyer drew up an agreement that if he cheats again, he forfeits any claim to our marital assets." "Doesn't sound like you need the lawyer mine recommended." Jen smiled. "No, but I will have mine contact yours so we can make a coordinated attack." I told her all the evidence I had, including texts and video. She was impressed with how I accessed Debbie's phone and recorded their intimacy. As painful as it was going to be, she suggested that we collect another week or two of evidence before we act. Jennifer assumed correctly that I was seeking a divorce, given I had already consulted an attorney. We swapped cell numbers and I gave her my lawyer's contact information. I barely got in the car when Jennifer called me. She had called her attorney who would need 2 weeks to prepare to properly confront Tom. I guess being intimate so much during the week, they need the weekend to rest. According to their texts, Debbie wanted to take the weekend off so she didn't arouse my suspicions any further. They planned to resume their intimacy come Monday. Sunday night, Jennifer texted me that she needed to talk to me. I was afraid there might be a problem or she was having second thoughts. I shut the door to my office and called her. The plan was still on, but she said she wanted to remind me to play it cool, and she curiously said under no circumstances should I be intimate with my wife. She also said I shouldn't kiss her either. That was not a problem. I was disgusted by being near her anymore. When I got finished with the call, I noticed that Tom had texted Debbie some more pics. He was excited that with the girls in dance camp all week, they would have intimacy camp all week. I actually got upset when I looked at the pics he sent her. I expected him to have something that she couldn't say no to, but he was average at all, looked like an average size, like mine. Their routine was the same every day. Drop the girls off, go back to our house, and be intimate. It was hard watching them be intimate every day. It was even harder listening to him brag about what a good lover he was. Debbie rarely said anything, but one day she did say that she was finally getting enough intimacy to satisfy her needs. Jennifer asked me to meet her for lunch on Friday. She wanted to go over the plan. She had met with her lawyer and everything should be in place by the end of next week. Her lawyer had talked to mine. The plan was to hit them at the same time, have divorce paperwork ready for them to sign with the threat that if they didn't, the videos would go public. Jen again warned me not to be intimate with Debbie. I told her there was no need to tell me that. I had no interest in even touching her. I asked her why, and she said it would send the wrong message to Debbie. That weekend, Debbie slept in most of Saturday morning till afternoon. She said she wasn't feeling well and didn't exactly look well. According to some texts between Tom and Debbie, Tom wasn't feeling well either. On Sunday night, Debbie told Tom that she wanted to rest on Monday, and maybe they could get together on Tuesday or Wednesday. On Wednesday, once at work, I pulled out my phone to watch the cameras. Right on time, Tom showed up. Even though they didn't feel well, they were going to try to be intimate. They both got naked, but I noticed Tom wasn't ready. I heard Debbie say, "I'm not sure I can do this, I'm really dry and uncomfortable." Tom asked her if she would just be close to him. Debbie tried in vain for several minutes. Suddenly, she ran to the bathroom where I could hear her being sick. Debbie wasn't giving up so easily. She tried till she got tired. Tom finally asked her to stop. He was uncomfortable. Thursday morning, Debbie said she was feeling a little better, but was walking awkwardly. I watched intently from my office when Tom showed up at the house. Debbie stopped him in the kitchen. "We can't be intimate today. I'm very dry and it's painful." Tom didn't argue. "I don't think I could anyway. I'm in pain and I don't think I can be ready. I don't know what is going on." They talked for a while till Debbie accused him of giving her an STD. Tom got defensive and left. I called Jennifer, who didn't act surprised or concerned when told her about their illness. We finalized the plans to confront our spouses on Friday. The kids had their final dance class with a little performance. Their grandparents were attending and we had planned on them going with them for the weekend. This wasn't unusual, so neither Debbie nor Tom were suspicious. Jennifer told me that she had notified the police to be outside when she confronted Tom. She feared that Tom would get violent when she showed him the evidence. He had in the past. I had almost everything I needed prepared before I left for work Friday morning. The paperwork was ready, and I had my videos set up. I had packed 2 suitcases for Debbie and hid them away. We got a little delayed after the dance performance. My parents were concerned with how Debbie looked. We stood there and talked for over half an hour while Jennifer and Tom left right away. I drove fast and took a shortcut beating Debbie home by a few minutes. I quickly got my presentation ready, including putting out the suitcases. Just as Debbie got home, Jennifer texted me. She had already confronted Tom. As she feared, he got violent, hitting her. The police were right there, stopping him before he could do any harm. Tom was going to jail. She had a few bruises and cuts, but nothing serious. Debbie walked in just as I read Jennifer's last text. With Tom in jail, I was certain Debbie had no idea what was about to hit her. "Debbie, can you come into the living room?" She walked into the room, noticing the 2 suitcases by the wall. "What's with the suitcases?" she asked. "I'll tell you in a minute. Have a seat in the chair. I have something to show you." I hit play, turning the screen on the TV. Up popped a screenshot of a text conversation. Tom, "I can't wait to be close to you again." Debbie, "God, yes. I'm aching to be with you again." Tom, "I'm ready whenever you are." Debbie, "I want to be with you as much as I can. Bob just doesn't do it for me." Debbie stood up. "What the heck is this?" I hit pause. "Please sit down. All will be clear in a moment." Debbie continued to stand with her hands on her hips. I insisted. "I said sit down." She sat down, starting to say something. I put my hand up to tell her to stop. I hit play again. Upon the screen, a shot of our guest bedroom appeared, then faded to Debbie and Tom unclothed in the bedroom. I watched as Debbie gasped, putting her hand to her mouth. The picture zoomed in on an unclothed Tom standing next to the bed. They are too clueless to know that while they work while we are intimate. The picture faded to a compilation of the 2 being close. Debbie was crying, telling me to stop the TV. I hit pause. What does my loving wife have to say? Tears were flowing down her cheeks. "I'm sorry. It was a one-time thing. You have to believe me. It meant nothing to me." In a very calm voice is said, "Don't lie to me. It will only make it worse. If that is possible." I hit play and forwarded the video to the next chapter. Another text conversation came on the screen. Tom, "That closeness you gave me and the New Year's Eve party was great." Debbie, "The intimacy we've had since then has been the best I've ever had." Tom, "I'll be with you whenever you want it." Debbie, "I want to be with you as much as I can. Bob just doesn't do it for me." Debbie stood up again. "You accessed my phone? That's illegal." She got her phone out. "Sit down and forget it. If you are thinking of calling or texting your lover, don't bother. Jennifer has already shown him the proof that we were too clueless to have. He flipped out and attacked Jennifer and is now sitting in jail. I don't know if you know, but you weren't his first, second, or third affair. He's lost everything, and by the way, so have you." Debbie went back to sobbing and pleading with me that she was sorry. She kept asking what she could do to make it up to me. "Let's start with the suitcases you asked about. They are for you. I packed some clothes and things. You are to get out. I don't care where you go." I picked up the packet the lawyer prepared. "This is the divorce agreement that you will sign. You will get 30% of our assets excluding the house. You will get reasonable visitation and will not have to pay child support. That visitation, of course, will have to be supervised." "What? Who the heck do you think you are, and why would I sign such a thing?" "First, I'm the husband of someone who has been being intimate with the sleazy neighbor for the last 6 months. Second, if you don't sign, we will have a very public trial where the hours of you and Tom being intimate will be broadcast. Finally, I would hate for these videos to go public. I guess you could be the next big scandal." "What about Izzy?" she cried. "I don't know. How do you want to tell her that her mother did things that made her have to leave our home and our family?" Debbie curled up in a ball, wailing. Finally, she calmed down enough to read the paperwork. "I'm not signing this." "Fair enough." I skipped to another section of the video. Debbie was on her hands and knees with Tom behind her. "Who would like me to send the first video to, your parents or your principal? You will be in just as much trouble for sending that out." "Oh, Debbie, don't know who you're married to? Or should I say about to be formally married to? I'm an engineer. They will come from an untraceable account." Debbie argued for a few more minutes till I threatened to hit send. She finally agreed. I had worn her down. She asked if she could go and get some personal items, to which I agreed. 5 minutes later, she was driving away in her car. The divorce agreement was signed. On Sunday, a car pulled into the driveway. It was Debbie's father, Mr. Anderson. He came storming up to the house shouting that I had kicked his daughter out and he was not going to allow it. He said that his daughter had told him about the phony divorce agreement I made her sign. He was going to get it disallowed. I told him to shut the hell up and come into the house. Debbie had not told him the real story. When I told him that his daughter was a cheating woman, he threatened to kick my back. I played the video for him and he shut up real quick. At first, he tried to claim the video had been doctored, but I told him I had hours if he wanted to see. His attitude changed once he saw the huge amount of evidence I had on his sweet daughter. He finally agreed that my proposal was fair to keep the videos from going public. I thought he was more thinking of the shame that would come down on him rather than his daughter. His only request was that he and his wife remain part of Izzy's life. To that, I agreed. Once the paperwork was filed, I allowed Debbie's dad to collect the rest of her things. Tom went to jail for a few months, then disappeared. Telling Izzy was the hardest thing I ever did. She was too young to understand what her mother had done. I told her that Mommy and Daddy weren't together anymore. I didn't blame her, but she seemed to believe that it was her mother's fault. Izzy didn't see her mother for 6 months. Her parents told me that she could face her, but later I found out that Debbie had been in the hospital. Somehow, she had contracted an incurable STD. I suspected the good doctor Jennifer got her ultimate revenge on Tom and thereby punished my ex-wife for the same stroke. The doctors were able to get the rash under control, but it was highly contagious and not curable. Debbie was told that sex for her was out of the question until and if a cure was ever found. Once I learned of the diagnosis, I petitioned the court to prohibit Debbie from having any physical contact with her daughter. The court granted my modification of her visitation. 6 months later, Debbie's mother called. "I hope you're happy. Debbie took a bunch of pills and now she is gone. This is all your fault." "No, Mrs. Anderson, I'm not happy. I wasn't happy the day I found out your daughter was cheating on me. I wasn't happy when I had to tell your granddaughter that her mother had done things that made her have to leave our home and our family. I wasn't happy when I had to tell her that her mother had contracted a disease that would prevent her from physical contact with her mother. So, no, Mrs. Anderson, I'm not happy that I'm going to have to tell my daughter that her mother made such a complete mess of her life that she killed herself. I will not take the blame for your daughter's complete lack of morals. Mrs. Anderson, please just bug off." I didn't see Jennifer after Debbie's funeral. She and Mary moved away. Before she left, I asked her if she knew anything about the STD that both Tom and Debbie had contracted. She looked me in the eyes. "That's a question you don't want to ask." And that's the end of today's story. If you enjoyed it, please give this video a thumbs up and drop a comment below. Your support helps the algorithm push my content further. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. It really helps me keep creating more stories for you. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.